Mid-B covers HoT. Episode 4. House of the Dragon Episode 4 opens on Storm's End, where Princess Rhaenyra is trying to find herself a man. Unseemly suitor one after another comes and presents themselves before an impatient Rhaenyra. Her wisecracking begins to grate on her host, Lord Bormund Baratheon. You might remember Lord Bormund Baratheon from the tourney in Episode 1, where he called Princess Rhaenys the queen who never was. Rhaenyra complains as she sits on Bormund's very throne that the quality of suitors brought before her insults her station. But Bormund points out that the lords she's insulting, be their lords too young or too old for her liking, are very powerful in the Riverlands. The Blackwoods in particular have a very strong army, and even though their lord is like a literal child, he gets the job done and he's so sweet doing it. Not to be like weird or anything, like I know this is weird either way, but if you were in Rhaenyra's position, you'd prefer a younger lord rather than an older lord. That way you can kind of like build your own man from the ground up, you know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like there were definitely worse prospects than this kid. Rhaenyra is kind of like a bit of a jerk here. Like, I adore the girl, I'm not gonna lie, but she's being a jerk. She's being kind of a brat. She basically rewards the white trashiest person in that hall at the expense of a child. It's wild. That rhymes. A crass duel breaks out, confirming Rhaenyra's suspicions that this crowd is too white trash for her taste. Rhaenyra and Sir Criston take their leave. She decides to end her tour of Westeros looking for suitors a couple months early. This is an incredible insult to those houses still waiting for their leg of the tour. This whole display does make me question Rhaenyra's readiness to take on the responsibilities that come with being heir. She's really not fulfilled any responsibility she hasn't taken on herself, aside from bearing cups. On their way back to King's Landing, she and Sir Criston Cole notice Daemon's dragon flying ahead. And sure enough, it is Daemon. Nobody seems as surprised to see him as Viserys is surprised to see Rhaenyra, but he really can't deal with her right now. Daemon saunters in with a bone crown, dude. It's the crab feeder. This is Bones making up the bone crown. I do miss the cool hat from last episode, but this isn't bad. He offers the crab feeder's weapon to Viserys to add to the Iron Throne. This is all an elaborate pageant for the brothers. There's so much anticipation, and they just hug it out. Like, they just hug it out. There is a moment where, like, everyone's waiting for Daemon to declare himself king of the Narrow Sea, but of course he recognizes Viserys as the one true king. He's not a fucking idiot. Well, we'll get to that. The relief in Daemon's body as he falls against his brother is just palpable. Like, you can just feel that he needed this, making the rest of this episode particularly tragic. You can see Viserys knew he was gonna come around. I mean, no one's ever really sure with Daemon, and they get less surer throughout the series, but here you can see Viserys still does have some benefit of the doubt for his brother Daemon. Viserys asks after Lord Corlys, who sailed directly home to Driftmark after a successful taking back of the Stepstones. I don't blame him. At the little celebration for Daemon's victory, Viserys gives Rhaenyra the cold shoulder. We also see that there's a nascent rift developing between Alicent and Viserys. Viserys is just getting drunker and more adversarial with age. But the way Daemon looks at Rhaenyra sassing her father is atrocious. He needs to go straight to jail. Let's put him in jail here and just stop everything now. Alicent and Rhaenyra share their loneliness as each are spurned by Viserys. Alicent mocks Rhaenyra for finding complaint and having her pick of all the men in Westeros, which most women don't. And she's basically like, hi, like the subtext is like, hello, the subtext is like, I'm here. Rhaenyra makes this really unnecessary comment about being trapped in a castle and being forced to have babies for the rest of her life that obviously really bothers Alicent because it's pretty pointed at Alicent. Rhaenyra still does not understand what a sweet deal she has here, and this lack of perspective is clearly grating on everyone around Rhaenyra. Alicent goes on to share how lonely she is and how much Rhaenyra's company means to her. Everyone else just sees her as queen. Rhaenyra shares the sentiment. Aww. Rhaenyra finds Daemon in the Godswood and begins to break ice on what I imagine will be the most uncomfortable conversation you and I will have thus far in the series. I know. Daemon goes on to tell Rhaenyra that marriage is just a political arrangement, and that once the deal is signed, that those involved can just go on and do as they please. This is very convenient for Daemon, who is married. Also, intellectually, I know I don't like his hair in this moment, but I'm also more about it than I've ever been before. I'm really confused. He tells her that you can't live your life in fear, or you'll forsake the best parts of it, to which she answers that she does not want to live her life in fear. She just wants to live her life in solitude. I'm sure we've all felt that way at one point in life, but those things kind of mean the same thing. Making friends is hard as an adult. At the small council, we see Viserys is reaping what he's sowed with the whole Lord Corlys situation. Lord Corlys is shopping Lady Laena and Valerian around the free cities for a marriage. Otto alludes to having to seek out their own marriage pact through Rhaenyra. But hey, at least Rhaenyra isn't pouring cups anymore. We then see shots juxtaposing Alicent and Rhaenyra's evenings. Every scene with Alicent is just like a painting. Her longing out the window in these deep, rich blues out into the fantasy land that she'll never know. Heartbreaking. She is lonely. This is her everything. She's just like shaking that baby all the time. Or rocking it, I mean. Meanwhile, Princess Rhaenyra retires to her room and wishes Sir Criston good night. Inside her bedchamber, she finds a bag filled with boys' clothes and cryptic instructions in High Valyrian. She changes into the clothes and follows the instructions to open a passageway that leads out into King's Landing. Daemon is waiting for her and takes her on a debaucherous little tour of the city. They drink, they trip, they have a good time. Back at the Red Keep, Alicent struggles with the formality of her duties and tends to Viserys with a kind of tenderness that only a wife can. He's very lucky to have her. She takes on the task of treating Viserys' wounds herself. His lesions are pretty freaking gnarly, dude. Daemon takes Rhaenyra to one of those crazy, trashy mummers plays on the street so she can see what the common people really have to say about her. They turn the Iron Throne into like a toilet and use a horn to make farting noises, and I actually thought this was like really funny. Rhaenyra is recognized by a gold cloak, Sir Harwin Strong, remember Master of Laws, Lionel Strong's son, but he looks the other way. I like him. He's a little raunchy though. I like him, but he's a little, tell there's something's not right there. I think he's digging the wild child streak if his reaction to her bringing back that bloody boar corpse last episode is any indication. Alicent initially rejects a booty call from Viserys in the middle of the night, but she can't reject him more than once. It's a very sad reminder that for as loving as she is to the king, she's still his subject and basically an employee in the ways that really matter. Whenever he turns to her, she fakes it, and it'd be funny if it weren't so sad. Then Daemon takes Rhaenyra to a brothel. This is where stuff begins to get real dark. It's clear that Daemon is beyond drunk or has some sort of insidious plan. He reveals Rhaenyra's identity to the entire brothel on their way inside. He takes her to an orgy and then claims it's sex education. Nasty. Rhaenyra and Daemon predictably begin macking, and just as they're about to seal the deal, Daemon backs away. It's like he sees her face and calls it off, but she's really into it for what it's worth, like disturbingly into it, and takes it pretty rough that he's not. The whole scene is kind of uncomfortable with how effective it is at being as sexy as it is. And honestly, I don't think it needed to be as sexy as they made it. In the context of this world though, I think we need to appreciate that he stepped away at all. Then, as Rhaenyra sloppily leaves the brothel out the front entrance by herself, not knowing where to go, we see a child slowly get up and deliberately follow her. It's the most foreboding 10 seconds of your freaking life, dude. Rhaenyra is either too drunk or too lustful or both to return through the normal private channels of her secret passage, so she goes through the front gates of the Red Keep, my guy. Rhaenyra draws a lot of attention returning to her room, as well as the surprise of Sir Criston, who didn't know she wasn't sleeping soundly behind him this entire time. So this is weird. There's obviously a power dynamic between them, one which royals abuse all the time. Arguably, they can't avoid abusing this power dynamic because they are just royalty, right? But Rhaenyra is clearly crossing boundaries with Sir Criston here. He is very reluctant to take off his cloak, and when he finally does, there's no air of triumph. In fact, he hesitates again when they get to her actual bed. My understanding is that he feels he has no choice, but he still wants to. You know, like, I mean, obviously, like, I don't know. Sir Criston is a character. Let me tell you something about Sir Criston. He's a character. Sir Otto is called out of bed early the next morning by the same child that we saw follow Rhaenyra out of the brothel. Daemon wakes to find he's in the brothel and Mysaria is preparing a hangover cure for him. He's a real jerk about it, even though it's way more than he deserves. He tells her he doesn't need a common whore's protection, which is like so rude. Are we to believe like he just like left her on Dragonstone for 3 years or what? Oh my god. Okay, but then that same child that followed Rhaenyra and then went to Sir Otto comes in and gives Mysaria her cut. That's right, Mysaria is running a spy network. Viseria tells him she's now an information broker and he can pay for his room on the way out. Bye-bye! Otto then decides it's time to deliver news of Daemon and Rhaenyra's indiscretions to Viserys. Viserys is rightfully impatient for Otto to just spit it out. And when Otto finally does, Viserys can barely believe what he's saying. Otto is implying that Rhaenyra's honor was violated by her uncle Daemon. Viserys accuses Otto of being so sick with ambition that Otto would truly try to sabotage Viserys' own blood so that his own could have a chance at the Iron Throne. When Otto leaves, we see that Alicent had been listening the entire time. Rhaenyra is then summoned to the Godswood where Alicent interrogates her. Rhaenyra begs Alicent to believe that she and Daemon did not couple and goes so far as to say that such gossip is an act of treason, so the motivations of those who bring the gossip to Alicent in the first place must be questioned. Rhaenyra is not in a good spot here. She admits to having drank too much and having gone to a brothel, but of course she can't tell Alicent the full story that her maidenhood was compromised. It doesn't look so good to have even gone so far as to kiss Daemon, so she asserts that Daemon did not even touch her, which is patently untrue, even if they did not go so far as to couple. But Alicent believes her. Alicent wants to help protect Rhaenyra, that's all. And I believe her. And Alicent knows that questioning Rhaenyra's virtue could end very poorly for Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra is too privileged to understand that right now, but Alicent does. This time around, when Viserys meets Daemon at the Iron Throne, there is no goodwill left. Viserys is back in his war suit, and he's wearing the fuck out of it. He beats Daemon the only way he knows how, when Daemon is too hungover to fight back. Viserys accuses Daemon of defiling Rhaenyra, to which Daemon responds that when they were her age, they had already fucked their way through King's Landing. But it's different for girls, and Viserys says as much with a quick swift kick in the ribs. Daemon lies, saying that he did have sex with Rhaenyra, and then he demands that Viserys wed Rhaenyra to him in exchange for having won back the Stepstones. It will save her honor and clean up the line of succession, conveniently for Daemon. Viserys then says he realizes Daemon doesn't actually care about his niece Rhaenyra at all. This isn't about her. Daemon just wants to get on the throne by any means necessary. With that, he banishes Daemon back to the Vale with his lady wife. He says he never wishes to see Daemon again. Daemon passes out on the floor after that. Alicent and Viserys discuss the situation with Rhaenyra and Daemon. Alicent says that she believes Rhaenyra, that it is not in Rhaenyra's nature to be deceitful. She cannot say the same for Daemon, which Alicent is like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're right. But Viserys asks, why would he tell a lie like that? Alicent responds because it makes Viserys feel bad and belittles him, and that's reason enough for Daemon. Alicent does go hard for Rhaenyra here, which I do appreciate, but I gotta say, she also says that Rhaenyra maintained that she was still a maiden, which Rhaenyra never actually said. She said she did not couple with Daemon. So, this is terrible. This is gonna be terrible. Viserys and Rhaenyra finally talk. He shows her the hidden messages activated by heat on Aenar Targaryen's ancient blade. It's a Valyrian steel dagger, and on it is written the Song of Ice and Fire, telling the tale of the prince who was promised. It'll save the world from the dark and all that. He does this to impress upon her the importance of taking her duties and her right to succession seriously. It's not just her right to the throne that's at stake here. She risks not only their lineage, but an enterprise meant to protect the entire realm. Even though it's hypocritical, and Rhaenyra is fine to point it out the same way Daemon did, Viserys says that she cannot behave like a man would behave. Right or wrong, that's the deal. So if she wants to take on Aegon the Conqueror's quest, she needs to get her head in the game and get serious about making sure she sits her butt on the throne. They're on the brink of war with House Velaryon, and they need to convince Lord Corlys to wed Lord Laenor to Princess Rhaenyra. Her opportunity to choose a match for herself has passed, and there can be no question going forward about her virtue. Rhaenyra agrees and says she'll go along quietly with the match, under one condition, that Viserys dismiss Sir Otto from his small council. He's too self-interested and distrustful. Viserys counters that every man, woman, and child in court and on his small council is self-interested. That's the whole gig. Rhaenyra is correct, though, when she points out that Otto has proven willing to jeopardize the stability of the realm just to see his grandchild on the throne. Why would Otto need to spy on Rhaenyra if that weren't the case? Do you spy on your friends? Here's the thing. In his position, where information is power, if you were working for the king, I would have spies on everyone. Maybe not the princess. I think that's a little sketch. Maybe I wouldn't have told the king. I don't know. Nobody asked me. Nobody asked me to be the hand. I don't know. Then Viserys calls Sir Otto to the small council chambers. Viserys describes the many tragedies that ultimately culminated in Otto being named Hand of the King. The best day of Otto Hightower's life. In just 5 days, he went from just some guy to the most powerful man in the world. Viserys asks him then, how long did it take after that to choose himself over his king? The implication seems to be that Otto might have neglected or even had a hand in the king's demise, but regardless, it's very brutal. Viserys informs the crumbling Otto that he always knew Alicent was a calculated plant, a distraction, but he loves her. Still, Otto's interests no longer align with the crown. He has been removed as Hand of the King, and Viserys takes the Hand of the King pin from Sir Otto's tunic. For just 2 old guys talking about like the good old days and shit, it's very effective and very sad. Obviously, Otto doesn't see himself as the villain here. He's caught off guard by the king's sudden coldness, although I would say he probably shouldn't be. He always acts like so surprised. I wonder if that is, in itself is an act, you know? Like those doe eyes, like, who, me? That's Sir Otto. He's always going, who, me? Later that evening, Rhaenyra is visited by Grand Maester Mellos. On the order of King Viserys, the Maester brewed moon tea to take care of any unwanted pregnancies resultant of any coupling Rhaenyra might have done. Whether the king just wanted to play it safe or just didn't believe Rhaenyra outright is unclear here, but this obviously puts Rhaenyra in a very bad position because though she did not couple with Daemon, doesn't want to send the message that she did by drinking the tea, she did couple with someone else, Sir Criston, and therefore is at risk. I mean, I would do the old like liquor cabinet trick and like put some like just gross ass like dark liquid in there to like fill it up. You know what I mean? I feel like that would get him and be like, oh, I didn't drink that tea, I don't need it. You know, but whatever. I know she didn't ask, but that's what I would do. And that's it for episode 4 of House of the Dragon. Thanks for watching a mid-B on HoT. Hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.